Hello my loves, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Nina, otherwise known as Sinfulpluto, and today we are doing something a little bit different. We're doing a kind of a collective reading for this Aries new moon that's coming up on the 24th, I believe. Yes, the 24th. So I'm basically going to be pulling for like overall energies and as well as messages that someone in the collective may need to know in terms of the new moon. So yeah, if the message resonates with you, if you liked it, if you enjoy it, if you were able to get something out of it, let me know in the comments down below. Give the video a thumbs up, share with your friends, with your family, loved ones. Subscribe, hit the bell notification to know when I upload my videos. And if you want to book a personal reading with me, you can do so at sinfulpluto.com. If you want to find me on social media, you can do so on Twitter and Instagram at Sinfulpluto. The deck that I'm using will be linked down below. It is the 8 Coins Tarot. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So, hi, this is a very different angle. I don't know how I'm going to be doing this. This is like kind of uncomfortable, but actually let me just shuffle out of camera because this is weird. So I'm just asking Spirit what's going on this Aries new moon. What is the energy of this Aries new moon? We already got a card that fell out. All right, let me get this card and then we'll get started. It fell on the ground. Okay, so we have, so sorry for all of the shuffling around. Okay, we have the 3 of Wands. We have the 9 of Swords. I love the imagery of all of this. The 9 of Swords. We have the, what is this? 7, 5, 6, 7? 7 of Pentacles. The Knight of Swords. I hope I can get this in frame. Holy shit. Okay. The 9 of Swords, the Hanged Man. Alrighty. Can you tell that I'm a bit of a perfectionist here? And it's not even like entirely even. I'm gonna cry. Okay, and then we have Strength. And at the bottom of the deck is the Moon. That's at the bottom of the deck. This is the overall energy of this new moon. So the moon basically talks about our fears. It talks about our anxieties, and with everything that's going on, it only makes sense that a lot of us may be feeling anxious, maybe feeling fearful, especially in terms of the unknown, especially in terms of whatever is coming to the surface, whether it's on a global level, a societal level, or on a more personal level. Maybe there are certain things with this Aries moon, this Aries new moon, that are really coming to the surface, that are bubbling to the surface, that we have to face, and it's not something that we can ignore any longer. Maybe for some of us, we have to face like some sort of transition that we are going through, or that we need to acknowledge. Maybe there's a transition that we need to acknowledge in some way, because with the moon phases, I keep on I have this feeling of like phases or transitions in some way, or just changes that need to happen. And maybe some of us are feeling anxious about those changes or transitions. Maybe we think that, you know, we're comfortable in the place that we're in, and so we try to kind of stay within that chapter in our lives, but the universe seems to be saying that, you know, we have to keep on going. There's still so much to learn. There's still so much to like not go through, but there's just still so much to expose ourselves to and to experience, that it would be a disservice to ourselves to remain in one phase just because it's comfortable or familiar, or because we've gained a certain level of success within that phase. Because who's to say that we won't gain more success in another? You know, we won't know that until we go out and follow through with the change, you know? So that's at the bottom of the deck. And so we have the 3 of Wands, right? So of course it is a time of expansion and learning and broadening our horizons, of course, with everything that's going on. It might, maybe not in a literal physical sense in terms of like going out. Please don't go out at this time. But in terms of ventures that we may explore throughout this period, you know, with this Aries new moon, maybe we get a new idea, or we see things differently, or we see that we're not as limited as we may think we are. Maybe physically, sure, right? Because we can only go so far physically, you know? It's not recommended to go out and like interact with all of these people and whatnot, but there's still so much that we can do in the comfort of our own homes. There's still so much that we can do with what we have access to. Does that kind of make sense? And so it seems as though with this Three of Wands, it seems as though there is a broader horizon in front of us. And we're realizing that there's just so much more to explore. There's so much ground to cover despite current circumstances. There's still so much to learn. Some of us may be contemplating going back to school, or maybe like just going back to like doing something to learn, right? And with this exploration, with this desire to explore, it could be that we may be feeling anxious about it, right? Three of Wands and the Nine of Swords right here. We may be feeling anxious about exploring those things for whatever reason, right? Maybe it's because we fear, I don't know, getting not contaminated, or, you know, like being under the weather or being diagnosed with like the virus, right? Maybe we fear catching that, and maybe we limit ourselves in that way, or maybe we fear rejection, or maybe we find ourselves just fearing the unknown, right? Because there's so much ground to cover, and so much of that we may not entirely know. We're not familiar with it. It's uncharted territory. So with that being said, with this Aries new moon, it shows how we might be feeling anxious about going forward and moving on into our uncharted territory, because of, you know, humans. We as humans, you know, we tend to fear that which is unknown to us. Does that kind of make sense? And so, you know, it kind of shows like, yes, there's a lot of potential, and there is a lot of passion and excitement and even motivation and a willingness to go forward. But of course, part of ourselves is kind of anxious or fearful of what is to come, if it's really worth it, if, you know, if pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone is really worth it. There's kind of this push and pull of wanting to expand, right? Is this the Jupiter signal? Yeah, so here, this is Jupiter, right? That's the Jupiter symbol. Wanting to expand, wanting to do more, but somehow feeling restricted, whether it's self-imposed or mandated by the government, or I don't know, just any other form of restriction, right? Whether it's physical, mental, emotional, there is that restriction that might be trying to stop us from exploring, right? And, you know, there has to be a balance between the two. So that's interesting. And then we have the Seven of Pentacles, which tells us that we need to be very patient and consistent in our work in order to reap what we have sown, or what we will sow, right? If we follow through with this Three of Wands, it's not going to be something where we are instantly gratified. It's not something that is just going to be like instant success. You know, it may take time. It may take some effort and patience on our end, and a lot of diligence, and like a continuous sense of motivation, but it's going to be worth it in the end, because with the Seven of Pentacles, this shows that we reap what we sow. If we continue working hard and being very diligent, and, you know, picking ourselves back up whenever we fall down, or whenever we have a bout of discouragement, or whatever the case is, whenever we pick ourselves back up, if we continue working towards our goal and keeping our eyes on the prize, we will be rewarded for that. So with the Seven of Pentacles, this is showing that, you know, we require to be very patient, and we have to have a long-term vision of what we wish to accomplish, rather than focusing so much on instant gratification, which might be a challenging lesson for many of us to learn, especially now with Aries season coming along, and, you know, with this Aries new moon. So it's like setting our sights on our long-term goals, right? Then that might be a bit of a challenge there, right? Because of course we want to explore. Knight of Swords. Of course we want to explore. Of course we want to forge forward and get out and do new things, and you know, be our most authentic selves and say things in the most blunt way possible and do things just very bluntly and without much of a care. With that being said, though, this Knight of Swords requires us to use our discernment and not be so quick to jump into something blindly. The Knight of Swords says, yes, move forward and don't let anyone get in the way of your progress, of your expansion, but also don't hurt others or even yourself in the process of doing so. And also, don't just jump into something blindly without knowing what you're getting yourself into. There has to be a sense of planning with that Three of Wands as well. What is it when you're going through uncharted territory? It might be best to create a sort of approach or a plan or a strategy as to how you are going to move forward into this uncharted territory. Because if you don't have a map, if you don't have any sort of guideline at all, how will you know when to stop or when to go or where to go to get some water? You know what I'm saying? How will you know when to turn? You know what I'm saying? So there has to be a level of discernment and, again, patience in order to really, I think, get the most out of this, to get the most out of out of the expansion, out of the learning. Does that kind of make sense? And with the Hanged Man, this is kind of saying how we might not necessarily slow down, but we need a moment to pause before we just jump into anything. There's a moment to, that we need to take in order to pause, to contemplate, to maybe see if there's a different approach that we can take or a different mindset that we can take. And also with this Hanged Man right under the under the Nine of Swords, this is showing how to not get so caught up in the overthinking and the anxiety, right? Of course, this is easier said than done, but by taking a moment to meditate, by taking a moment to breathe into our feelings, to breathe into ourselves, by taking a moment to pause everything and not give into the monkey mind, we may be able to shift our perspective and shift our attitude towards this expansion, towards this learning, towards this new beginning, I guess you could say. And maybe we won't get so caught up in the overthinking and the hypothetical scenarios that we end up creating in our minds. We won't get so caught up in just like worst case scenario sort of thing. Taking a moment to breathe, to pause, and to shift your perspective, to shift your attitude might be incredibly helpful. And with not only that, but it'll help in slowing us down and kind of like prevent us from sabotaging anything that could potentially be really great. And with the Strength card reversed, this really speaks to me about self-discipline and how we require a strong sense of self-discipline in order to reap what we sow, in order to get the most out of this journey, out of this expansion, out of this travel. Okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're physically traveling, but in this journey of expansion, of learning, of putting ourselves out there, of taking certain risks or expanding our minds in some way and creating like a stronger sense of flexibility, I guess you could say. By doing all of that, we build a stronger sense of self-discipline, and we will be rewarded for that. We are rewarded whenever we, remain on track and we don't get super sidetracked or distracted, or when we give up, but because it wasn't easy on the first try. You know what I'm saying? We're rewarded for being consistent, for being diligent. And the Strength card reverse kind of shows how for some of us, that might be a challenge, of course, because we want those instant results. We want tangible proof that we're on the right path. We want tangible things to show us that everything is going to be okay. But sometimes we just have to trust. And again, it doesn't have to be a blind trust, but if you know that you have been working hard, and if you know that, you're putting your mind to it, you're putting your back into it, then you will be rewarded for that. I'm so Oh my god, I'm gonna cry, bro. I'm trying to get these all even. I don't want it to be so crooked. I am so sorry. But that's kind of like, yeah, that's kind of what it seems here with the Strength card reverse, is how a lot of us really require self-discipline and to kind of hunker down in order to get the most bang for our buck. And also with the Strength card reverse, this can signify for some of us how we need to work on not allowing our insecurities to get the best of us. And how with this Hanged Man, by taking a moment to breathe and to really shift our attitude towards ourselves, towards our self-image, the way in which we view ourselves as people and as souls and as beings, by shifting that attitude, it's like we make it easier on ourselves, if that, in a way. We no longer are one of the obstacles that we have to overcome, right? If anything, we've turned from our own worst enemy to our best ally, if that kind of makes sense. And by having that mindset and encouraging ourselves and being there for ourselves and believing in ourselves, self-discipline can even become a lot easier. Self-discipline becomes a lot easier, and we become a lot more diligent, and we don't let anyone get in our way because we have such strong willpower, right? That's also the Knight of Swords, is strong willpower. So yeah, that's kind of what this Aries moon energy looks like, is an overall sense of expansion, wanting to expand, wanting to explore uncharted territory, but maybe feeling anxious about it with this Nine of Swords, maybe feeling just a little bit apprehensive of it all. And with that apprehension, with this Hanged Man, is saying how taking a moment to breathe, taking a moment to pause, taking a moment to shift your perspective, that anxiety may ebb away over time. And how with this Seven of Pentacles, we require to develop a sort of plan or a strategy, or develop a stronger sense of patience and diligence so that we can properly move forward and not jump into anything blindly, not jump into anything just for the sake of adrenaline. Does that kind of make sense? Of course, moving forward and not letting anyone hold us back and not looking back, but developing the willpower and the self-discipline to not burn yourself out so quickly. Does that kind of make sense? And with that all being said, the Knight of Swords, and with this Moon card at the bottom of the deck, that's kind of saying, not running away from that which we have to face, right? It's going fast enough that we're making progress, but also keeping up a certain pace where we're not running away from that which is unknown to us, or that which we choose to ignore or push away or repress. It's giving ourselves time to acknowledge whatever is repressed, right? Acknowledging the anxiety, acknowledging the fears, and then shifting our attitude towards it. So yeah, I hope that resonates with some people. I hope it was helpful. And yeah, I don't know if I'll be doing this again. I probably will. I think this was fun. This was an interesting angle. You got to see my hands. Oh my god, my weird hands. But yes, I hope this was helpful. I hope it resonates for someone out there. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.